My guest today has built a charity that has donated over 5 million period products to women and girls in need across the country. She also saves Aussie women like you and I over $30 million collectively because she lobbied the government to make sure that they absolutely remove taxes on period products. She is an Australian of the Year nominee. She is also the proud mother of 2 daughters, and she has a bunch of gorgeous grandkids. I am so excited to welcome Rochelle, aka Pad Lady, and I saw her car coming in. It is also the number plate. Pad Lady, the founder of Share the Dignity charity, here into the studio with me today. Rochelle, welcome to Reset.
Thank you. I'm super excited to have a chat to you.
Oh, this is so good. Look, I told you before we started recording that I am really inspired by your story. And in the past 10 years, you have had more positive impact on the world than some people could wish to have in 10 lifetimes.
Oh, thank you.
Can you kick us off with some more big numbers? I've shared a couple in the intro, but can you tell me what are the latest impact stats that Share the Dignity has had?
Yeah. Our Share the Dignity sexy stats, as I call them,
Yes.
are that we've had Australian public donate 5.6 million packets of period products that we've distributed to our 3,500 charities that we work with.
Wow.
We also have around 4,000 volunteers that we call Shiros. They're the backbone of Share the Dignity. We've collected more than 1 million It's in the Bag donations, and we have 1,200 dignity vending machines out there in Australia doing what they should be doing, which is giving people access to the very basic of essentials without needing to ask anybody for them.
I love that. And I want to jump into a little bit later what's in the bag is. But can you take us back to the start now? What inspired you to start Share the Dignity?
Yeah, so Share the Dignity started when I read an article that talked about the fact that women were using socks and newspaper to deal with their period. Now, this was back in 2015. I had suffered severely from endometriosis. So for me, a period wasn't just a period. And Share the Dignity probably wouldn't exist if that wasn't the case for me, because whilst I was never rich, I'd never not had access to period products.
Yeah.
So it really, in actual fact, I was privileged, right? It really spun a different world for me, to be honest. But then when I Google searched, it wasn't the first article to ever be written. This had been a topic that had been discussed before, and I just couldn't jog on. At that stage, my daughters were like 15 and 16, and I just didn't want them to ever read an article about that and wonder why no one had done anything about it. I had my own personal training business back then, and I'd asked all my clients to bring me a packet of pads or tampons for every wine they had in the month of March 2015.
Oh, that's creative. I like that.
Well, it worked, because some of them would just bring me a bag and say, oh, let's not count them, babe. Let's just start training. It was really that I didn't believe, and I still don't believe, that there isn't one of us who wouldn't give somebody we don't know, don't even see, a pad or a tampon under a toilet door. So how could we ensure that we all knew to share the dignity? Because we would all want to play a role in doing that.
Yeah, beautiful. And since that initial reach out to your clients, things have just grown, skyrocketed.
So in saying that, no one ever talked about it, right? So it wasn't easy, but it was also one of those things that people had never heard about before.
Yeah.
And they were like, oh, yeah, of course I could help. So there's not been very many people that I've asked to help me where they haven't said, oh, no.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, if you look at the charities that are out there, there are lots of charities who work in cancer or homelessness or DV.
Yeah.
This is a problem that we actually can solve.
Yeah.
Too, though, right? So I feel like people came on board with that. They came on board with the fact that this shouldn't be a problem that exists, and that if I could get people to donate them, that we could actually eradicate period poverty.
Yeah.
That wasn't even a word when I started either, right? So it was really about periods and poverty and putting them together and making people realise, like me, oh my God, I never knew that was a problem.
Yeah, and you're right. There's so many charities out there that do wonderful things and donate food and shelter and whatnot, but your period is something you don't get a choice in having as a woman. And so how many women and girls are living in period poverty around the country?
Well, interestingly enough, in 2021, we did our very first bloody big survey. So, and that came about in this long-winded way. I always say I'm like the Stephen Bradbury of charities, right? I just stumble and fall and it just seems to happen. In saying that, I surround myself with incredible people.
Yeah.
And it's those incredible people that allows and opens doors, and you're always learning, right?
Yeah.
So in 2021, we did bloody big survey. So we had 125,000 responses. So that made that the biggest body of data the world had ever seen on menstruation ever.
Let's celebrate that for a second.
Yeah.
That is huge. And when I was on your website and seeing the bloody big survey, I was looking at your numbers and I thought it is so hard to get 5 people to do a survey, let alone over 100,000.
Yeah, well, the last survey we had 153,000 people. So huge.
Huge numbers.
Huge numbers. I actually had to wear a dress completely made of pads for 30 days to convince people that I wouldn't take it off unless you did it. So maybe people just got sick of seeing it. But yeah, it is really hard to get people to do that. But people, I think women knew that if they gave us that 5 minutes, that actually could change the world for their daughters and their daughters' daughters, right? And that's what it's about. And that data actually has changed the world, right? So when we look at the first survey, our intent was really clear. We wanted to find out how many girls were missing school, how many people had not felt like they were adequately educated on menstruation, and who had been through period poverty. That data surprised us. It told us that 1 in 5 of us have been through period poverty, yet nobody talks about it.
No, it's such a taboo topic, periods in general.
Yeah. And to find out that women who identify as Indigenous were 73% that haven't been able to afford period products, that is so wrong. It shouldn't matter where you live. You should have access to period products, right? So that data that we utilised in the first place was to speak the language of politicians, was to say, you know what, here's the data. You've been asking me for years. You didn't want anecdotal, you wanted data. So here's the data. So now, proudly, in every state and territory, there is provision of period products at every primary and secondary school, excluding Northern Territory and Tasmania, which we're still working on.
Okay.
But how great is that?
That is huge. And if that was all you did, that would be impressive. But like you and your team just keep kicking goals in all areas. It's easy to look at things now 10 years on and think like it's amazing and you've built this huge platform and you can keep moving and growing from there. But in the early days, was there ever a point where you started to unravel just how big this challenge was and think like, you know what, too hard, too big, what can I do as one person?
Yeah, even now sometimes, like a couple of weeks ago, I just sat in front of my computer and cried because sometimes it is overwhelming, right? Sometimes there was an email that came through, it was a mental health unit in South Australia who'd found out that we were helping with bags for a mental health unit in Queensland and said, can we please get some? Can we get about 50 bags for those women who turn up with nothing, not even underwear on?
Yeah.
Now, there's somebody's baby.
Yeah.
There's somebody, right? And they mean something. And I'm like, how do you say no? But you know what? We're not going to collect enough bags to be able to do that. But I still can't say no. And so I just sat there and cried. And one of my team came in and was talking about it's in the bag. We were talking about the planning of that. And I was crying. And I was just sitting there crying. She goes, what's wrong? And then I started telling her the story. And she snapped this photo. It is the ugliest photo in the history of the world. And put it on LinkedIn, and we just wrote that this is gut-wrenching, and how do you not? And sometimes I just sit there and think, what else can I do when people rely on me? At the beginning, people didn't rely on me, so I didn't have anything to lose. Now I feel like if I don't, not that one person won't know that I haven't done that, but I will know. So things are hard. At the very beginning, I don't think it was hard. I was so filled with adrenaline and I was to the point I wouldn't even say I burnt out. I actually just got recharged by it over and over and over again, right? My health didn't come first, though, in retrospect, right? I loved that people needed me. I loved that it challenged my brain I loved the relationships that we built. I loved the challenges that were there. But, oh, my God, I had no idea of you'd pull a string and then more would just come and more would just come. And it just, here we are 10 years later and there are still 100 problems that I need to solve.
Yeah.
But we'll get there. I don't feel like I will say this, it's in the bag. I will die trying to get 150,000 donations so that no woman misses out.
Yeah. Can you take me back to the beginning? Where did Share the Dignity begin? What's its origin story? How did you get started?
Well, we've already discussed how it started with me asking my clients to bring me pads and tampons. Now, that was in the March. Now, in the May, another friend who worked in a hospital asked me if she could get some more period products. So it's not like I started off with Share the Dignity in my brain that I was going to do it all the time, right? I then did a post on our social media, which was a Facebook page that my daughter had set up. She had done the graphics. So literally I mention this because there's so many people who have played a little or big role along the way. That post that I put up then got shared. Em Rusciano, a Melbourne comedian, picked it up and was like, oh my God, I have never thought of this. And then she shared that to her 20,000 plus people. It went viral. I had no idea what we were doing. We then had another collection in August. We had Libra reach out to us and donate 150,000 packets of pads
Where
that
did
would
you
have
even
normally
put them?
gone to landfill. Oh my God. They went
No.
to a volunteer's shed in Warrnambool. Oh, it was absolutely crazy. Little did I know, in order to have a charity, that I needed to have a constitution, a board of directors. I needed to pay fees and permits in every state. And it was crazy. My husband had gone to school with a friend who worked at DLA Piper. So they donated $30,000 to do our constitution and start the business, which was a proprietary limited, and then start the not-for-profit DGR status. So that was crazy. But it was always it was never what you knew, it was who you knew.
Yeah.
And it was connecting all the way along. At the beginning, I remember Coles coming on board, but they only wanted to come on board in Victoria. And because we had like a national page and we were collecting everywhere, it made it really complicated.
Yeah.
So we had Terry White Chemist and we had Fernwood, and I had this vision board, and I still have that vision board, and I cut out everybody that I wanted on it and every person that I wanted to share the dignity. And I look at that board and I think, for most part, I was successful in everything that was on there except for Oprah. Now, Oprah is coming here very soon.
Yes.
So I'm going to tick her off my vision board. I have been writing to Oprah every 3 days for the last 90 days.
Persistence. And it's worked for you in the past.
It has, absolutely. I remember when Woolworths contacted me after the abolishment of the tampon tax and just using LinkedIn to share the stories all of the time. And I still do that. I still do it successfully. I think that, and showing that vulnerability, but also people want to help.
Yeah.
They just want to know how they can help. And I think that's probably one of the things that I've also done really well. I will tell you that I'm never the smartest person in that room, but I don't want to be. I went to a lunch on Friday with the most incredibly smart people. I was the dumbest person at that table, and I'm okay with that. But, oh, my God, those conversations that I learnt from were incredible. Now, if I was to sit around a table where I was the smartest person, am I going to learn anything? Probably not, right? So I'm always happiest being not the smartest person at the table. And I'm not saying that I'm dumb. I'm just saying that I surround myself with people who have got skills in areas that I just don't have.
Yeah.
That's how I will always be able to be better.
Yeah. Strategic.
Yeah.
Very strategic.
I'm the dumbest strategic person I know.
And that addiction to the growth and the purpose and the impact, I'm sure a lot of people listening can relate to that in their careers. They lean right in and they push really hard, but maybe the stakes don't feel as heavy as what you're dealing with. So it's...
Yeah, and remember, for the first 5 years, everybody was a volunteer, including me. So I had this amazing business of Bella U personal training, which provided for me and my family and my daughters. And then the more I got into Share the Dignity, the less I trained people. So I was donating, I literally had 2 full-time jobs.
Yeah.
It was hard. Sleep was rare. 5 hours I would live on, but would I do things different? Again, probably not. You just got to do what you got to do. Share the Dignity is a charity. It's a not-for-profit. but it's a business and we're in the business of making a difference. And you really had to put a business lens on it from everything that we did. Like, how do you get people to donate? Well, for me, I was a busy mum, right? You have to make it super simple. You can't have too many steps. You've got to communicate really well. People don't want to send another message to find out how you do something. So I think that it was a perfect time for me, and I'm good with that stuff, right? I know what it's like to be a time poor person, and time is the most precious resource anybody can give us.
Yeah.
Including businesses who invest their time in putting a collection box. What are all the things that we can do to make sure that their time that they give the charity and the cause is utilised to the most? Yeah.
You share on your own podcast, which we'll link in the show notes, and on social media, a number of real stories from the women that are being helped. Are there a few that stand out to you that you can share with us right now? Because I think, as you mentioned, a lot of us come from a privileged place where maybe we've been out and about and not had a tampon when we needed it, but it wasn't necessarily because we couldn't afford it. What sort of things are these women dealing with?
Yeah, in 2017, I met this incredible young woman who, in a domestic violence refuge here on the Gold Coast, actually, and she changed me forever. So we were sitting on the edge of the bed. She was about 24. She had a little baby boy who was about 9 weeks old. And she talked about the fact that living on the streets in Adelaide was safer for her than living in the home that she had come from because her mother had sold her for sex from the age of 8. Now, I couldn't stomach that in itself, but her to tell me that she knew to go in and steal people's socks from the laundromat to deal with her period at the age of 14, and that she ended up going from one relationship to another at 14. She ended up choosing to live with a man who was 30 because it was a roof over her head. Like, her choices were never there.
No.
And for me at that stage, it was, how does a child just disappear from schooling, from friendships, from the world, and get vortexed into that life? And so 10 years on from stealing a sock, here she is having stolen a packet of maternity pads because she needed to buy formula and nappies, and she didn't, she was sleeping in her car before she ended up at the sanctuary. And that whole life of turmoil saw her sitting on the edge of a bed with a bag that somebody had donated and given her, which was a mum and bub bag. Now, she talked about that bag as the only Christmas present that she remembers, and since the time that she was 8 years old. And when she was 8, her mum gave her a bike, but her mum took it back to the shop after Christmas. So she talked about, she remembers getting a Christmas present, but then it got taken back. So she actually didn't remember getting a Christmas present. This bag was the first gift she'd got. And in there were these little round yellow earrings. And she said, oh, well, I've never had a Christmas present, but I've never felt pretty. And I feel really pretty in these earrings. Now, a bag can give you all the things, but that made her feel pretty. It made her feel valued, and that you can never buy. And I will die trying to make sure that people feel like that for Christmas, right? Yes, we give them pads and tampons and all of the things that they need, but that feeling like you're important and you're special, and to have never had that as an adult or a teenager, blows my mind. And, I'm proud of what we've done, but that is the reason why we do it.
Yeah. So we want to times that by 150,000 this year, right?
And I believe that every one of us has the ability to just put that one bag together and impact that one person.
Yeah.
That's a huge thing to be able to do.
Yeah, the ripple effects of that are giant. So let's talk about it. I know a number of people have probably heard of what's in the bag before, but for anyone hearing of it for the first time, what is it and how can we help?
Yeah, I'm going to step that back to what does Share the Dignity do?
Sure, yeah, of course.
In March and August, we put collection boxes out in every Woolworths supermarket, but also another 1,000 other businesses around Australia. We collect period products, so everything from pads, tampons, menstrual cups, period undies, incontinence products, and then we distribute those to the 3,500 charities. And then we do It's in the Bag. So it's like my favourite child of Share the Dignity, probably because I hear more stories from people who will tell you about the impact of the bag, as opposed to, oh, I got my period and thank God I got a packet of pads or tampons,
Yeah.
right? We ask you to clean up your cupboard. Really, that's how it started. It started from me cleaning out my bathroom cupboard and realizing I'd been a netball coach, a personal trainer, and people had just given me all of these things that I just am a really simple person. I don't ever change my perfume. I don't ever change my jewelry. And so I had all of these abundance of things. And so I put them into some handbags and dropped them into a domestic violence refuge and then shared it on our social media. I had no infrastructure in place.
Yep.
I'd not even told our volunteers that that's what we were going to do. And we had like 200 and something volunteers back then. Some of them are still in therapy from the way that I've like, oh, let's just do this. But oh my God, I'm so grateful I did. And I literally am always cart before we'll just work it out. We'll just work it out. So we now ask you to fill a handbag with life's essentials, things like shampoo, conditioner, toothbrush, toothpaste, deodorant, soap, period products. Then anything else you put into your bag size is up to your bag size, your imagination, and your budget. So you can put things in like I've owned 7,422,000 hair ties in my lifetime and I can never find one. I always put a hairbrush and hair ties into my bag. I also always put a chapstick. So I've got a chapstick in my car, in my bedside drawer, in my office drawer, in my handbag. I just couldn't do life without chapstick, right? So I just think about the things that people want and need in their bag, and just to hear those stories of women smells is one of the things that I constantly hear about ladies when they've received a bag. Like Kim, who you can see on YouTube. Actually, you can hear Kim's story. Have you heard it?
No, we'll link that in the show notes
though. Kim's story about receiving a bag. She's I think the second or third episode, and she talks about how unsafe it was for her in her home in domestic violence, and that washing her hair was an absolute luxury at home because it wasn't safe in her shower. And when she ended up in a domestic violence refuge, she felt safe in this shower, and in her bag was Flex shampoo. And she said she still uses Flex just for the smell and for the first time in her life feeling safe and cared for, and that somebody she'd never met had given her something. It was something different and really important in her life.
Yeah.
And, you know, to look at Kim, you would never choose that would have been the life that she was. And I think that was the real beauty of the Another Bloody podcast was that people perceive people who've experiencing homelessness or domestic violence to look a certain way. They just don't. They just look like you and I.
Yeah.
They just got a really trauma-filled life and story.
Yeah. And how do we get these bags to women in need? I know you've got a really cool partnership with Bunnings. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so what we do is ask you to fill those bags and then drop them into Bunnings the last 2 weeks of November. We do 3 different types of bags. So a women's bag, then a mum and bub bag, which you just tie a purple ribbon on, and a teen bag. So a teen bag, we just ask you to put a yellow ribbon on it and put things like, you know, mindfulness colouring in, or just some things that you think that your teenage self or your teenage daughters would want and need. There is a story that we've shared recently on our page about Rachel, this incredible young woman who was going to a high school for girls not in mainstream. Now, Rachel didn't have a home. She was experiencing homelessness and going to school, right? Just couch surfing from one house to another. The school was organising, so she got a bag a few years ago. The school was organising for her to have permanent accommodation. So she, on her 18th birthday, received this bag that somebody had given her, and in that bag was a towel set. Now, she was moving into a unit that they had given her. It was the first time that she'd had her first lot of things. Now, it was her 18th birthday, and it was a Christmas gift, and it was the only 18th birthday present that she got, and the only Christmas present that she got. Somebody put that together for her. So there's, a beautiful picture that they sent us of Rachel holding this bag. You actually don't see her face, you just see her holding this bag. It's stories like that make us who can afford to put together a bag. And I always say, if you can't afford to put together a bag, get together with some friends and buy some pieces each yourself. Yeah. And maybe look in your cupboard of things that you haven't opened, right? And look at what you could give somebody else.
Yeah. So everyone that listens to Reset, they're high achievers, they're going to be wondering what makes a great bag, not just a good bag, but a great bag. What's kind of the best bag you've seen, or what do you want to challenge them to put in there? You've listed a number of things. Is there anything else?
You know what? A great bag is one that comes from somebody's heart.
Oh, yeah.
It just does. And it also comes with a note. So a lot of our stories that you hear the ladies talk about is the note. So Gabby also received a bag, and in her bag was a quote that said, "You are braver," and the Winnie the Pooh quote that said, "You are braver and stronger than you ever imagined." That changed Gabby's life around, and what somebody had written in that note. That note sits beside her bed in a frame, still to this day. Gabby now works in lived experience in the hospitals in Perth because it wasn't abnormal for her to sleep during the day while living on the streets of Perth because it was unsafe to her to be asleep at night.
Yeah.
So, a bag has so much, but as long as it comes from your heart and what you put into it is not about the money. It's not about how much money of stuff you can put in there. It's really about what does that look like for you? Should you be fleeing domestic violence and need something?
Yeah.
Best and Less do these incredible undies that are one size fits all,
Ooh.
which are incredible to put into the bag.
Okay, noted.
Noted. Yeah,
One size fits
they just
all.
stretch, and for lots of our bags go in the back of police cars, right? So when a woman's being picked up from DV, she sometimes can be put on a bus to get to a different state and not have anything. Now, imagine just having even a pair of thongs.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's the little things when you don't have anything.
Yeah. Anything we shouldn't put in the bags?
Yeah, look, we can't have food, and that was we can't because of the ants and the heat. So I always thought at the beginning. So the first year we did lots of mistakes, right?
Yeah.
But I just thought you would want chocolates in there and candy. But in Queensland, you put those bags in the back of your car or you take them to buy, they melt, or the ants get them. So we ask that people don't put food in. We also ask that you don't put sharps or razors in.
Okay.
Basically, you don't know whether that bag is going to end up in a mental health unit or people who can't have it.
Yeah.
So, and then we ask you also to opt for roll-on deodorants or pump sprays as opposed to aerosols for the same reason.
Yeah, that makes sense. On your website, there's also a way that you can donate equivalent money to a bag. Can you talk to me about that?
Wow.
Is that a thing? Hang on.
Yeah, it is a thing. It is a thing. And I take a big deep breath because before COVID, we used to collect 145,000 bags, 142,000 bags, and the charities would request around 150,000 bags.
Okay.
So we were never very far off. And for most part, that was mum and bub bags because we would never get enough of them. They're quite expensive to put together, right? But in COVID in 2020, everything changed. Everything changed for the world, right? But it also changed for Share the Dignity. What happened was we collected 72,000 bags and the charities had requested 162,000 bags. I was gutted. And I remember, and this was the one point where I realised that people relied on us, that we weren't even a nice to have anymore and that people needed us. And so a woman from Tweed Heads had rang my mobile and said, "Oh my God, your Shiros have just dropped off 25 bags and I've got 52 women coming. That's how many bags we'd requested for a homelessness event. Every year we give them a bag. What am I going to do?" And I remember I don't like conflict in the first place. I was really startled by it and her aggression, but I kind of understood how do you give one every second, a bag to every second person? It was just a problem that we'd never had before. And I just said to her, look, I'm so sorry. We can only give what's donated. And so around Australia, we have, 4,000 volunteers who felt that. In their gut, their hearts, we were broken. And so we realised that people weren't going out shopping. People weren't going to offices. So all of these big collections that we used to get from offices that they would take to Bunnings was just not happening. So we thought, you know what, we'll turn it online. We'll do the shopping for you. We'll get bags, the money donated, and then we'll put them together. So we now have what we call Sponsor a Bag. And that has started from there. A couple of weeks ago, we put together 11,000 bags in a 2-week period. We had corporates come in. They'd come in for 2 hours. We'd pack them. But you have no understanding of it cost me $500,000, which was all the money that you had donated. But the rubbish that comes from unpacking 11,000 shampoos and conditioners and deodorants. Even every deodorant pack comes in a blister pack that you've got to cut open, and then a box, and then these amazing little connectors on either side, which we actually keep and give to kindies to put paints in.
Oh,
and
cute.
we try to really recycle, but it took us 32 skip bins to get rid of
Which
that
comes at a
amount
cost
of
as well.
rubbish as well, right? So, well, I love that people give money. It's like a production line of putting those bags together. And yeah, we do it with heart, but it's not the heart that happens when you choose your bag, you go out shopping, you put it together, you put a note in it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I love it, and it's so needed. Those 11,000 bags went out to 82 different charities, a lot of them remote Indigenous communities, because, again, shouldn't matter where you live, you should have the very basic of essentials. And for them, they don't even have their own toothbrush. Like, they share a toothbrush between everybody who lives in their home. Same with shampoo and conditioner. They're those very basic of essentials that we just have in our bathroom are such a luxury for them. So it's really important to get them to them before Christmas as well. So, we could pack 11,000 bags every month and we still wouldn't have enough bags.
Yeah. It sounds like a really nice way to get a group of girlfriends together or your corporate team together and pack bags yourselves, and then one person or the group can go to Bunnings and deliver them. But that seems like a nice kind of team bonding activity or thing for a group of girlfriends to do.
Even in workplaces, they will give a matching pair from different divisions, $50 Visa card, and they go out and go shopping together. It's a great bonding experience, right? But it's also a really nice way in a corporate world to have conversations around domestic violence and even privilege, right? Like, could you imagine being without those sorts of things?
Yeah. Talk to me more about the ways corporate teams get involved throughout the year. Is there, if someone's listening and they have a team or a business and they think, oh, this is a great thing for us to work into our calendar next year, what's in the bag? Is there anything else that you've seen corporate teams do?
Yeah. So at Mars Bar, at the moment, they are, every month they bring in something different and donate shampoos and conditioners in January, then something else. So it's never a big thing at the end of the year. Then they bring in one bag each and then they all pack a bag. They pack it together. So instead of having an expensive Christmas party, this is their Christmas party. It's a way to give back. It's a way to show, and everybody loves it.
Yeah.
And that happens not just at Mars, but at Combat. Like, it's really important to be able to show your staff, not just tick a box.
Yeah.
That you're making a difference.
Yeah. And it's great that these huge organizations do it, but small businesses can do it too. If you have a team of 2 or 3 or 10, like, it's still something you can all bring things in together and make the bags together. And what a nice way to spend an afternoon.
Yeah, absolutely. Even the going shopping piece.
Yeah, yeah.
It feels so good. Like, I mean, I know when I go to Kmart and I'm going to put together my teen bag, I just love it. I love the shopping piece of it. I love that you're thinking of somebody that you're never, ever going to meet.
Yeah. Yeah. Helping a stranger at Christmas time.
And on our website, we have everything. So if you want to host an event at your workplace, we have everything from the email that you need to write to the email signature to the header to everything that you need, the shopping list, everything is there. Again, I look at how I would want things given to me. I want everything on a platter.
Yeah.
So I don't want to have to think about it. Downloadable posters, everything's there.
Make it as easy as possible.
Absolutely.
Perfect for time poor managers or assistants out there that are thinking, what can we do for our end of year way to give back?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Same with International Women's Day, all of those sorts of things. I think that's one of the things that we've done really well from the perspective of how can a business get involved?
Yeah.
Here we'll make it as easy as possible.
Yeah, I love that. That's how to make things easy as possible. What is the hardest thing about running a nationwide charity as big as Share the Dignity?
Time. Time's just something you can't buy, right? And even last week we have 32 staff now, and every single one of those staff could come in today and work for 14 hours and they'd still have 14 hours of work to do. There is just a list a mile long, and that doesn't even allow, my word for next year is space. What I'm really looking for is, we've worked really hard this year. We've implemented Salesforce. We've got a new website coming. And this is all because Priceline, the Sisterhood Foundation, have given us $250,000 a year for 3 years.
Amazing.
To be able to do some of that really heavy lifting that has happened. So we've done a lot of that this year. And even for any business that's implemented Salesforce, Salesforce will make things easier, but there's a lot of work that goes into before you do that. And, as a charity that's 10 years old, if you donated to us, we've said thank you, but we've never had a process for doing it, right? So we're really excited about that. But my word for next year would be like to be able to have a team of staff that have 35 hours worth of work to do and have space to go, oh, I've always done it that way, but actually if I did this, this or this, we could have a better outcome. And that's the world that I want moving forward into our 11th, 12th. 13th and forever's years.
Forever years. Yeah. And sometimes, like we were talking about earlier, like a retreat experience, sometimes you need the opportunity to just step back. But when you're so busy, you don't have that. So space is really cool. Coming soon for you too.
Absolutely. And for me, I think every time I do, and your health and well-being is the highest priority because you can't actually lead a team. No. And I understand why I attracted the people that I attracted when I did, because I was working 60, 70 hours a week. I wasn't setting a great example on a nice walk in the morning. Gym is really important. Eating healthy food, resting was not in my vocabulary. And even though I didn't expect it of everybody, that was what was attracted around me. It was a culture.
Magnetized.
And I've absolutely made so many mistakes from that perspective, but that is not who I am now. And I think that's the really beautiful part about being a leader, is that you get to change and evolve every single day, right?
Yeah. Where do you see Share the Dignity in 10 years' time? Which is, you've been in this for 10 years. Like, I'm sure another 10 years, you're just going to continue to magnify and amplify your impact. But what's your vision?
My vision is in 2035 that we will have menstrual equity in Australia. So menstrual equity to me means that no matter where you are, there is the provision of period products. So whether you're at school, university, in a hospital, you're at the library, whether you're in a workplace, there is period products there like there is toilet paper. So there won't be what we have now, which is, girls missing out on sport because they can't afford period products, or they have endometriosis and playing sport is something you don't talk about, that sort of thing, right? So there's the provision of period products, but there's also the education component of it. So in our Bloody Big survey, our stats showed that 63% of women felt like they didn't feel like they were adequately educated on menstruation. What? Imagine 63% of girls coming out of school saying, I don't feel like I was adequately educated on maths or English or any of the other subjects. That would be an absolute failure on the education department. And we would be doing everything we can to rectify that, right? And so then my conversations with the education department is, this is not good enough. And what are you going to do to make this better? So if that's the number for women, could you imagine what that number is for boys and men? And everybody's little boy ends up being somebody's father, boss, colleague, friend, and they have no understanding of menstruation. That has to change. Education needs to be better, and they're removing that shame and stigma. So in doing that, we are really working hard with, we produced a 2-minute non-verbal animation. We did that with 25 new Australians, so refugees who'd come to Australia, based on some information that we had in the collaboration world. And I'm so proud of that 2-minute animation that is now being rolled out in schools, in prisons, in hospitals, in health departments. That will ensure that when we go to do the Bloody Big survey again in 2027, we don't want to see those numbers the same. And we are committed to doing that survey every 3 years. So by 2035, there will be none of this 1 in 5. There will be none of this can't participate in sport because there isn't period products. Nobody missing work because they're too embarrassed to go to a meeting and feel like they're going to bleed through their clothes. All of those things, I feel like we have the ability to make the difference. We can't do it alone, which is why we are working with the federal government, we are working state, we are working council, we are working with schools, we are working with NRL. So, for example, I've worked with NRL to produce what does a coach need to know when Ruby's dad, who's put his hand up to coach the under 12s, is saying, I'll coach them, but I have no understanding about menstruation. So all of those sorts of education pieces are so very vitally important to that 2035 goal. I feel like it won't not happen. It's not a non-negotiable for me. It's just how do we bring everybody in on that journey?
Yeah.
We will then obviously need to move towards 2 It's in the Bag donations a year instead of the 1, because obviously people flee domestic violence every day of the week, right? And for me, It's in the Bag has turned the corner from just being a present at Christmas time to women coming out of prison 365 days a year, or women in mental health units, or it's just way more than what it ever was when we very first started. So that's where we will negate to and drive towards, which is what we're setting ourselves up for now.
Yeah. You mentioned before that being a leader is an opportunity to learn and grow and pivot and change yourself every day. What do you feel like you need to change about yourself, or how do you need to grow to be able to deliver those goals in the next 10 years?
Oh, that changes daily for me. Like for me, being really rested is the best version of me. Exercising is the best version of me. Seeing things from other people's perspective, but always learning and reading. Like, I don't do conflict well. I don't do hard conversations well. And that comes from a childhood trauma, right? So working on me, being the best version of me, is to the benefit of everybody in Australia, I say, right? When you're leading a charity like that, and I'm trying to make sure that a woman doesn't miss out on a bag, whether she's coming into a mental health unit or she's spending Christmas in a domestic violence shelter. The best version of me is not just for me, it's for everybody.
Yeah. I like that quote, and I might get it wrong right now, but it's something around, like, rather than have I worked hard enough to deserve rest, it's am I well rested enough to be able to do my best work?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think growing up, I didn't resting was for the weak, right? So that to me, that was how I was brought up. And I wore busy like a badge of honor. Oh, I'm so busy. I'm this, I'm that. And it's just so stupid, really. And when I look back and think, oh my God, now there's no negotiating when it comes to 8 hours sleep. Even this week, I've got a board meeting till 7:30 on Wednesday night, and I have to be in Sydney by 8:30 on Thursday morning. And I've just said, originally last week I was like, no, I'll just get the first flight out, which is now 5 o'clock because of daylight savings. And then I'm like, no, because I'll come home from the board meeting and I'll be worried about I have to get up at 3:30 to get there. I'm like, I'd rather just go after the board meeting, get there, get a good night's sleep, and then be ready for the next day.
Yeah. And that takes time and experience and self-awareness. I think we all go through that messy period where you just lean into the busyness, and it's fun and it's addictive and it's cool, but it takes time to then have that hindsight of, oh, actually, this isn't sustainable. And if I do want to do my best work and have this global impact, which I'm sure you're working on, then you do need to put those boundaries in place.
Yeah. And I think it comes at a time in 2021, I had three operations. Wow. And it was a really tough health year for me. And you can't buy your health. No. And you can't be of any benefit to anybody if you're not healthy.
Yeah.
So for me, that was my year where I was like, okay, all right, I really need to look after me. And audiobooks came into my world. Now, I'd never read I just never read because I never stayed still long enough. And I'm probably one of those people who would now be diagnosed with ADHD. I'm going to pretend it's a superpower, but it's also been something that I haven't known or how to work with. So I never read because I could do 2 or 3 pages and then I'd be bored and I'd be looking at, what's the next shiny thing, right? So audiobooks changed my life. And even now when I say, I just read, actually I audiobooked it, and my mum will still say, well, that means you didn't read it. I'm like, I took it in. And I'm now smarter than I was before the book, so I don't care. You take it whatever way you want to.
Yeah.
I think that's another thing that I've learnt. I mean, I'm 55 years old, right? I don't care what anyone thinks anymore. God, I wish I was that person when I was 25.
What haven't we spoken about today that you wish more people knew?
If there's a problem in the world or in your world, that you have the ability to fix it. I think that's the thing, that we sometimes think problems are so much bigger than the one person, but it's not. The most powerful thing any of us have is our voice to make a difference. And that's a voice, even if you're standing up for yourself, right? It's our most, how do you find your voice? If you can't do it, you have to work out a way to do it.
Rochelle, thank you.
Thank you.
I've loved this chat. I've learned a lot. I think everyone listening is going to be excited to go out and build a bag, write a beautiful note, drop it off and donate it to someone that they're never going to meet, but they might just make their year a little bit easier. So thank you for everything you're doing.
Thank you.